So our top 4 greatest players of all time in the first 100 years of the NFL are Jerry Rice at number 1, Tom Brady at number 2, Lawrence Taylor at number 3, and Jim Brown at number 4. What part of that list do you take issue with the most?
Ooh, I had Jim Brown as my number 1 player. I totally get the idea that Jerry Rice could be that guy, or Tom Brady could be that guy, and frankly, some others as well. But I thought Jim Brown, for what he represented at his time, was the best player of that era for a sustained period of time. And yeah, Jerry Rice played 20 years, but being a running back, at the time when he played, I thought Jim Brown was the dominant guy. So I'm kind of surprised that Jim Brown is only number 4.
Well, and I'm fine with the list as it is, although I will say that I didn't put Jim Brown on my list at all. And I know that could be shocking. So I'm fine with it to the point that I wouldn't have Jim Brown at all. Now, I am not by any means discounting his football prowess. And previous weeks, we've talked about how great he was. No doubt about that. Absolutely. I'm looking at him through the lens of 2019, 2020 America. And if we had what I have in my hands here, which is a list of all of the allegations of domestic violence against none other than Jim Brown, going back to the 60s, very serious stuff that I know you absolutely agree that how serious it is. If all of this had happened, if Jim Brown had been competing now, he would have already been probably kicked out of the National Football League, and we would never even been discussing it. So absolutely understand him as a football player, respect you for voting for him first, no problem at all. But for me, I kept him off my ballot because this is our poll. We can do whatever the heck we want. It's not a court of law, But I do believe that these allegations, one after another, of domestic violence by Jim Brown, and of course a lot of cases where the woman chose not to testify, or what we're talking about the 1960s. I think it's significant. I think it's important, and for me, he's not on my list.
I guess I applied the standard that the Hall of Fame applies, that it's just strictly what happened on the field. I voted for Tom Brady. I thought Tom Brady, it's a cliche, but it's still true that football's the perfect team game, except for one thing: too much responsibility is on one player, the quarterback. You have to have that guy. I think this guy's been to 9 Super Bowls. His team won 6 of them. 3 MVP awards. It wasn't an easy choice. I could have gone with Jim Brown. Jerry Rice, to me, makes a ton of sense just because he's so much better, I think, than the second person at his position. But I went Tom Brady, but I wouldn't argue against either of these 4.
Well, I guess my question then is, okay, if you know that Jerry Rice was dependent on Montana, and as well as the other quarterback, obviously, that he got to play with as well, Steve Young, then why wouldn't Montana be number 1 on the list if Jerry's catching balls from Montana?
Because he had Jerry Rice.
Yeah.
That's my thing. Is like who has Tom Brady had to throw the ball to? Good receivers.
And for a short
probably
period
a
of time.
future Hall of Famer and a tight end, Rob Gronkowski.
Sure.
Who else? He never had a Jerry Rice.
Yeah, he had Randy Moss for a couple years, but
Yeah.
But never won a Super Bowl with Randy.
true, but almost. But
And I have Joe Montana in my top 4, actually.
Okay.
Because for that reason. But I had Rice and Montana both there. And again, and this is one of those apples and oranges.
Because they're sort of linked.
Sure, they're linked, but also give me Montana and Rice over Brady and any of the others. And all due respect to Tom Brady and the Patriots and their fans, of course. It's just when you're picking, it's just for me, I'm looking back over the 100 years of the league, and the 80s were so competitive. You had some real super teams there in the 80s. And for Montana and Rice, I put Rice number 1, but for Rice to be leading the way like that at that time in the decade, that for me is number 1.
I think one of the things too that probably plays out in circumstances like this is that Rice was far and above the best receiver in NFL history, scored the most touchdowns in NFL history at 208. And Montana, for all of his greatness, you could look at a lot of other quarterbacks, well, not a lot, but several other quarterbacks and make the case about them, starting with Tom Brady, even the Peyton Manning, Johnny Unitas. So you could start really making, Dan Marino, Drew Brees. You could talk about a lot of different quarterbacks in the context, well, was he the greatest or was he the greatest? I think with Jerry Rice, not a lot of conversation. But I want to circle back to Jim Brown just for one quick second
Yeah.
here. Because I think it's significant. And Kent, we're in those Hall of Fame meetings and we talk about trying to judge what's happened on the field in terms of trying to assess someone's worthiness. And that's what I think we're talking about here with Jim Brown. And that's why I put him at number one, because we're talking football. We're not talking about, the morality club. And we can't, or let me put it
But
this
JB,
way.
what we're talking about is greatness.
Yeah, exactly. On the football field.
But just the greatest,
in football. We're
greatest
talking about,
football player
Right.
of all time.
Right. We're not talking about greatest football ambassador. We're talking about greatest football player. You said it.
Yeah.
Okay? And so why should we hold Jim Brown to a higher standard for that category than we do the orange guy in the Oval Office who's had so many allegations?
If he
And
were a football player, believe me, he would not be on my list either.
I know.
The orange guy.
Or my list. No, I'm sure of that.
I'm
But
sure
again,
of that.
and a lot of these, Christine, allegations and, not really convictions. Now, the thing he was convicted for in 1999 was for taking a shovel to his wife's car, making terroristic threats, and ended up, doing some jail time because he didn't agree to the sentence of community service and picking up trash. Okay, get that. And then he was also convicted back in the 60s of assaulting, or if it was 60s or 70s, a golfing partner who was a man, not a woman, by the way. And he has even admitted, yes, he, slapped a woman here and there, which is a very serious thing.
Exactly.
Did not result in the, the convictions, to tell you the truth. But when we look at it in a bigger picture too, I think it's like, okay, that was definitely a problem. And I'm not giving him a pass on that
I know
at
that.
all. But I'm also saying if you're going to consider that, then you also consider some of the other things that happened outside of football in terms of Jim Brown as a civil rights activist, as a person who's worked with, gang mediation in Los Angeles, who's worked with prison reform and things of that nature. So I think there's a bigger picture there. And I will say this he's been married now for over 20 years, and we've not heard any more incidents of domestic violence since the 1999 situation.
And that is good. That is good.
Yeah.
I look at this as a great honor to be saying to vote on something like this, as I know you do as well. And I'm not trying to be holier than thou by any means. And everything you said about Jim Brown, the player, and so many of those things he's done off the field are amazing. Grant you all of that. I think at the 100th anniversary, here he is, here's your number one. Now, he's not our number one. It's Jerry Rice. Here it is, your number one. No, I'm not giving you that. No.
The problem with that, I think, for me would be I didn't look into the backgrounds of the other people I voted for.
Right, this is pretty obvious.
Yeah, but I didn't look at any of the other 99 players I voted for. I'm sure there are some in there.
But there's a reason OJ gets left off lists,
Sure, I wouldn't have put him
right?
on my
I mean,
list
there's
either.
a reason, and it's not because of what he did on the football field.
Well, if that was going to be the standard, then we should have been told that before we voted.
Sure, sure.
Well, and it was my standard. It's not our standard.
Yeah, and I get
again,
that.
respect
I have
that,
a
yeah.
friend who does lists all the time, and he said, if you don't like it, make your own list.
Well,
this is my list.
And I think
Totally
that's
get
what we're
it.
talking about
Yeah.
here. But I do think it's an important point to bring up, which we are, and thank you for hearing me out, is that at this point, USA Today, with the domestic violence issue obviously so present, and the word domestic is, I hate that adjective because it softens the word violence, of course. And you've written a lot about it. You've written a lot about it. You've talked a lot about it. I mean, so there's no doubt how we feel about that at this table. I'm just saying, I'm taking this step further and saying, for this particular exercise, as we look at the 100th anniversary and naming a person, my choice personally is to not have him anywhere near that list. And that's, I'll stand by that, of course, 100%.
For those of you, Christine and Jarrett, who did not put Tom Brady in your number one, what does the man need to do to get there?
Well, why don't we we'll meet again in 100 years. and
When he's
we'll-
through playing, will he be through playing?
No, I
Have
think
a
he'll be playing.
have a do-over.
142-year-old Tom Brady or whatever, and we'll see where he stands. Yeah, no, he's great. He's great.
How many
This is
rings
not.
does
I mean, he's
need?
number 2. I mean, come
Yeah,
on.
he's not. It's
Did you
not bad.
vote on number 2?
Maybe not.
Yeah, I had him in my top 5 though.
Yeah, I
So,
did have him in my top 5.
Yeah, which is about as good
He
as
has a
it
new
can be.
nickname, Top 5.
Top 5.
Top 5.
Tom
Terrific.
Brady,
If,
top
if
5,
this gets out, he's going to
TB12.
mention this through the year. Yeah.
I mean, I can just imagine Tom Brady on Instagram playing 50 Cent Many Men while he's on his treadmill showing our list.
I hope that happens.
Right?
Yeah, that would be great.
I would love that.
That would be great.
It would be good for us. It would be good for his
Think of
motivation.
all the football players who played this game in the NFL over the last 100 years, and he's right at the top. That's about as good as it gets.
Yeah.
Especially for a guy still playing at this very moment.
Hey sports fans, you want to see more videos like this? Check out some of our other videos right here, and if you like what you see, hit the subscribe button. And stick with Sports Pulse, your heartbeat to what's trending in sports.